I'm going to tell you 5 mods to avoid when you're on your provisional license and why you should be avoiding them. Number 1 is cold air intakes. Internal combustion engines create power by mixing air and fuel and then burning that mixture. The more oxygen and fuel that you can force into a motor, the more power you can make. This is why turbochargers help you make so much more power, because they can cram a whole lot more air into a motor. But when you're on your P's, turbochargers aren't a legal option, which is where cold air intakes come in. The belief is that the factory airbox or air filter are too restrictive. They don't allow for enough airflow, and that's limiting the amount of power that your car is making. So to try and correct for this theoretical problem, manufacturers create airboxes which are larger and allow for pod filters that are supposedly higher flowing, and some of them even create larger intake mouths which will apparently help ram more air into the inbox all at once. And these kits range from $100 to $500. The problem with all of this is that it does nothing. It's all just marketing nonsense to trick you because it sounds like it's correct, but really, it's just so these manufacturers can make cheap parts that they can then sell to you for a lot of money and make a really big profit. And unfortunately, as with every car myth out there, all it takes is for one reputable workshop or person to say something, other people will just start repeating it without verifying whether it's true themselves first, and eventually you get to this point where it's just said over and over and over again on the internet enough that people just take it as truth, even though it's just not. With a cold air intake, you're basically just paying up to $500 for somewhat cooler sounding intake noises. A lot of these big names that you see making and selling these cold air intakes used to make some really bold claims about the power that you could get installing their cold air intake. Like when I was on my P's, almost every single manufacturer claimed 15 kilowatts uplift from installing their particular cold air intake. But while I was making this video, I noticed that pretty much every listing has either reduced their power claims by a lot, or they've completely removed any claim to power gains at all. I can only guess this is because so many people have been buying cold air intakes, putting them on their cars, hitting the dyno, and then seeing absolutely zero power uplift, and that probably opens these manufacturers up to being in trouble for false advertising or making false claims about their products. There are still manufacturers out there who will make power claims about their cold air intakes, and they'll even try and back them up by showing YouTube videos of dyno runs with and without their intake. But what they're not kind of being honest about with the dyno run videos is that, let's say you make 10 kilowatts extra power. That's about 5% of the NA Barra's power. That's within a margin of error where you could reasonably expect to see a power difference of that much on the exact same car, one run after another, without changing anything at all. That's such a small amount of power that you could get that power difference just by having slightly better quality fuel, newer fuel. That's such a small power difference that you could see a greater difference in power just from one engine to the next on the assembly line in the factory. Just because of the nature of how mass manufactured products are, one engine will go together slightly differently to the next. Every car is ever so slightly different. You might end up having a larger power gain just by having a different motor, the exact same motor in theory, but they always end up being slightly different. So these dyno run videos, people will point to them as, oh no, this is evidence as actually it does help gain all this power. And it's like, unfortunately, it's a margin of error. They're being somewhat dishonest with you. It's just marketing. In conclusion, cold air intakes, you've been lied to, you're still being lied to. It's just a myth that has perpetuated for over 10 years now. They're a waste of money. Don't do it. If you're enjoying the video so far, don't forget to subscribe. I'm on a mission to try and get past 20k subs, finally. Number 2 is extractors and exhaust, another classic in the P-plate modding list. Similar to the cold air intakes, there's a belief that adding extractors and an exhaust will help your engine make more power and torque, but it comes with the added benefit of sounding fucking hectic, bro. Sadly, just like the cold air intakes, this comes down to mostly marketing. The idea that you're sold is that the factory extractors and exhaust are too restrictive and they won't allow the exhaust gases to leave the motor fast enough, and this causes back pressure, reducing your potential power. And like with the cold air intakes, this sounds right. It sounds like it could be true. It's definitely true for some cars, but it's just not true for Falcons. Once again, this is just manufacturers trying to sell you a product. And again, a lot of them used to make really bold claims about an extra 15 kilowatts just by putting our exhaust and our extractors onto your car. Some of them would even make claims of putting the extractors on would add 15 kilowatts, and then putting the exhaust on would add 15 kilowatts. So all up, that would be 30 kilowatts. No, it's not 30 kilowatts. It's 0 kilowatts. And as with the cold air intakes, most of these claims have disappeared now. I wonder why. Maybe, and I'm just gonna throw this crazy idea out here, it's that the engineers at Ford who designed the exhaust system for the Falcon actually understood fluid dynamics, and they were capable of creating a system that allows for the exhaust gases to be extracted at a high enough velocity for the NA motor to fully harness its potential power. So that just leaves the hectic noise. Now, this is going to be an unpopular opinion, so feel free to roast me in the comments if you want, but I believe that if you're on your P's, you probably shouldn't have an exhaust that's louder than a group of wasted white women out on a hen's night. In fact, you should probably be trying to tone it down to avoid police attention. The police are already going to be picking on you because you've got P plates on a Falcon. There's no need to give them extra ammunition by having an exhaust that's obviously illegal. Unless, of course, you enjoy getting randomly stopped for breath testing every other day. So, be smart. Get an exhaust, sure, but tone it down. Don't be so loud that it attracts extra unnecessary police attention. Number 3, lowering your car. Another classic cop magnet. If I had $1 for every time that some kid with a car lower than your girlfriend's standards complained that the police put a yellow sticker on their windscreen once again, I'd be able to buy a house. Outright. Cash. Even in this economy. But that's not to say that I'm against lowering your car at all. I just think there's a significant overlap in the Venn diagram of being too low, using really cheap, shitty parts, and being a P-plater. If you're on your P's and insist on lowering your car, I recommend that you at least keep it high enough that you don't attract extra police attention. You should, at a minimum, be able to get in and out of the Macca's driveway, since I know you're probably going to be going there all the time to pick up them fat bitches. Also, don't use cheap parts. Cheap coilovers are well known to seize and cause problems, and they're rough as guts to drive on. And for God's sake, do not chop your springs. No chopping. That's just extra unnecessary police BS to deal with. Number 4 is tuning. Now, tuning isn't a bad idea on the surface. I'm not necessarily against it. Yeah, you can actually pick up some pretty good power from getting a tune done. After all, this is a mass-produced family car, not a sports car. The tunes are very conservative and they don't necessarily take into account higher quality fuel, things like that. But the thing is, if you're going to get a decent quality tune done by a reputable tuner, a full suite PCM Tech tune is going to start at about $800. Now, if you manage to gain an extra 20 kilowatts through getting a tune done, that's costing you about $40 per kilowatt. It's a pretty bad cost to benefit ratio. Sure, you can go to a backyard tuner who's going to charge you a whole lot less, but you're not going to have any dyno results to actually know that the car really is making extra power, and you're not going to be sure that they haven't done anything really wild or dodgy, which is potentially just going to destroy your car in a few months or years. That being said, there is a part of tuning that I really enjoy seeing P-platers do, and that is the hectic AK tunes that I keep seeing on TikTok. Even though it's probably destroying your car in the end, those videos are awesome. Keep that up. And lastly is stickers. Now, this one's going to be controversial, I know, because stickers add an extra 10 kilowatt each. But guys, again, you're on your P's. Remember, the police are going to be after you all the time for any little thing. You're just giving them extra ammunition if you cover your whole rear windscreen in stickers that block your vision. And sure, you probably want to be repping whatever the latest in-trend car group is from social media, whatever society, mafia, something written in Japanese characters is, but trust me, these groups are a dime a dozen, and you'll stick all these stickers on your car, and before you know it, you'll be looking at them one day going, I haven't heard anybody talk about this group in years. So if you're on your P's, it's kind of just an obvious one. Don't go sticking stickers all over it because it just attracts police attention and makes the rest of us look at it and go, P-plater. And that is 5 things to avoid when you're on your Ps. What do you guys think? Do you agree? Do you think there's some things that I missed? Let me know in the comments, and I'll see you guys in the next video.